From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on this 23rd day of May 2010. We're going to be live here for the next 2 hours. I want to get into the North Korea situation coming up later. U.S. implicates North Korean leader in torpedo attack, New York Times. And I wouldn't put it past Kim Jong-il. That fits his M.O. But this article out of the Times of London, spy photos reveal secret launch site for Iran's long-range missiles. Just like they claimed that Iraq had long-range missile sites and was going to attack the United States. By that logic, Israel should be attacked then because they've got intercontinental ballistic missiles and over 400 of them. Of course, Iran and Iraq do not have nukes. Our government helped Pakistan get nukes to menace India. The truth is the globalists could care less about real threats to this country. They've got space weapons galore up there that are basically a countermeasure, a checkmate to any threat. No, they want to organize limited theater nuclear exchanges, but they don't want to go into North Korea. They want to go into Iran, so we'll be breaking that down later in the show here. I know that I covered it some Thursday, and Jason covered it when he filled in on Friday. The Mexican President Felipe Calderon coming here to the United States and lecturing us on how we need to turn our guns in. But I want to go back into that first when we come back from break. And then, obviously, Rand Paul. Now, this isn't just about Rand Paul earlier in the week winning by 30-plus points against the Republican establishment candidate. No, it's more than that. It deals with what racism and tribalism is under the auspices of multiculturalism. All this is a new religion in this country where if you question anything the socialists that control our government want, the command and controllers, you are a racist. You don't want government health care, you're a racist. You don't like Obama spending more money than all presidents before him combined, you're a racist. And it's just a mindless weapon to be used. And so what the politically correct priests are saying is, you are not allowed to even have your own opinions, or you will be arrested for being a racist. And that's already the case in Europe. And so just like concealed carry owners are no longer concealing them, they are legally and lawfully carrying them openly, don't need a permit for that, in all but a few globalist cities like Chicago and New York. And it's making the media report on the fact that, well, why aren't they being arrested? Well, because there's no law against this. Gun owners are coming out of the closet and saying there's nothing wrong with us. And to hell with you if you don't like it, basically. Well, it's the same thing with being an American, being against big government, being against socialism, being against open borders, being against the New World Order. Let them call you a racist. I don't care. I am done caring. I mean, I never really cared because I know what I really stand for. But now I'm going to be more overt, more in the establishment's face. Okay, I'm going to wear my colors openly for liberty and freedom and tell it like it is. So that is coming up as well today because the GOP has won their first big race in 20 years in Hawaii. We have Andrew Romanoff, the anti-establishment Democrat, trouncing his Democrat competitor in the primary in Colorado. We have Specter, the ultimate insider, the ultimate incumbent, out of there in Pennsylvania. But they're trying to blunt this anti-incumbent, anti-globalist revolution with their final weapon, racism. I don't want to turn my guns in. Racist. I don't want government-run health care. Racist. We're going bankrupt. I don't think we can have open borders anymore. Racist. It's not going to work. That's why Rand Paul's numbers are only going up since they've been screaming racist. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Incumbents, whether they be Republican or Democrat, are being thrown out of office in primaries all across the United States. And then when you look at the poll numbers, in the case of Arlen Specter, he gets trounced by another Democrat in the primary, and now the Democrat up against the Republican is at least 10 points behind. You've got anti-establishment Republicans running against establishment Republicans, beating them by 30-plus points. In the case of Rand Paul, everywhere incumbents are in trouble. And this is the first time in modern history in the United States, in our 230-plus years, that it's been an anti-incumbency across the board. Normally, what happens is you'll get Democrats in office, and then they sell the people out, so the population gets mad and puts in Republicans. And then a few years later, the Republicans don't do what they said they do, and the public then votes Democrats back in. And on and on and on the fraud goes on. And it's taken the American people about 100 years to figure out that private, corporate, offshore interests have bought off the leadership of both parties. There were some real elections previous to 100 years ago, and a few examples where we had real elections in the last 100 years. But by and large, the robber barons that created the monopoly over banking, the monopoly over the railroads, the monopoly over the delivery of farm goods from the countryside to the city, they were able to build a centralized control system and consolidate their power. And in the last 100 years, really about 110 now, but since about 1900, we have seen a continued consolidation of undemocratic, un-American power. As John D. Rockefeller I said, competition is a sin. Monopolies made my family, and they'll make our world government empire. You can go read those quotes by him, yes, over 90 years ago, calling for a world government, private, corporate empire. And they funded the UN, they funded the Club of Rome, they funded all the major environmental organizations to destroy property rights. They run almost everything with the Dutch royal family and the British royal family and the Rothschilds. And they openly brag about it. So the incredible news here today is that for the first time in 100-plus years, there has been a true populist realignment in the nation. Remember how it took in poll numbers 6 years, or 2 years into his second term, halfway into his second term, for George W. Bush to go from a high approval rating down to the low 40s and then to the mid-30s and then to the low 20s by the time he left office. It took 6 years for people to wake up to the fact that he was not a conservative, he was not a patriot, that he was just a puppet who couldn't even read off a teleprompter. Now, it took about 8 months for Obama to go from a 80+% approval rating to a low 40, and now in many polls below a 40. It took 8 months for him to go from an 80+, some polls were 87, some 82, but above 80, down to a low 40 or below 40. Now he's falling even faster, lowest approval rating in U.S. history for any president this far into their administration, okay? So it took less than a year for them to wake up to Obama. It took 6 years to wake up to Bush. And when they put a Republican fake savior in 2.5 years, 3 years, it will take weeks to wake up to him. Do you understand that? Or her? People have figured out their birdcage liner. Instead of talking about what the birdcage liner Barack Obama's doing, real name Barry Soetoro, or what George W. Bush is doing with his fake Texas accent from Kennebunkport, Maine, instead of it taking years, it takes months now. Instead of looking at what's on the birdcage liner, we look at the bird, the New World Order, the offshore corporations that are doing you-know-what all over us as a society. And that's why Zbigniew Brzezinski panicked last week We wrote stories about it up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com with the video. In fact, I forget the exact headline. Will you? I think it's Zbigniew Brzezinski says, afraid of global awakening. And he said, our world government is in trouble. You can go watch the video. This is the top globalist advisor living who's actually calling shots for the big families. I mean, he's the consigliere for the New World Order, bigger than Kissinger, the top advisor to Obama on all geopolitical operations, and he's at the CFR, and on TV, and he says, our world government's in trouble. For the first time, the world is awake to our world government.